everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 15 of ORB on the Movements of the Earth. And I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't exactly wait. So, luckily, Geen got me hooked up with the comments, so I get to look at those before starting this episode. And there were some really good comments, and people have been sharing, now that the floodgates have opened, it's like all the Bodini and Aksha fan art, and I'm just like basking in it. I'm like, yes, please. I think it was M on Discord that said today, they're like, I have so much Halloween fan art I want to share with you, but it had Aksha's scars, so I couldn't show it. And I was like, now we can. And there's like doujinshi of Aksha. I'm just so excited that there is doujinshi of Aksha and Bodini out there. It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. But anyway, the only comments I have to talk to you all about is from Yo Cell Crescent. For episodes 12 and episodes 13. Their comment for episode 12 said, if Aksha is the knight in shining armor and Bodini is the damsel in distress, then I imagine the anointing has the secondary meaning of a forehead kiss for good luck. You can't say things like that and get my shipper heart aflutter. I'm here for it. I absolutely love it. And then they said for episode 13, historians will say they were collaborators. No, but in all seriousness, the inherent romance in the tragedy of being the one that is the other's Achilles heel, knowing that Achilles was one of the biggest gays in literature. Yes, there's the famous sculpture that people are like, oh yes, it's them fighting. And I was like, if that's fighting, then MMA is taking on a whole new meaning. Where's my doujinshi and yaoi fanfics and fan art of that? So yeah, there's no denying there is a connection, even if it's platonic, even if it is queer platonic, they were just soulmates. There's something there between the two of them. And I'm like, it's kind of like, I explain it because people are like, oh, you're just shipping because you like yaoi and BL. And I'm like, no, there is something there. There is something there. There is chemistry. There is something beyond just friendship, because people are like, why can't two guys, I hear a lot of people on Twitter be like, why can't two guys just be bros? Okay, well, the two Inquisitors, the redhead and the blonde, they are just bros. I don't ship them. I don't think they're into each other. They are just bros that are Inquisitors together. But Bodini and Aksha, there's something there. Even if it's just platonic, there is like soulmate, like best bro forever vibes. And if you want to ship it like me, then go right at it. And if they're just friends forever. So anyway, we left off with our dear sweet Yolanta. She was helped by the one Inquisitor to get out of that situation where she probably would have been tortured and probably killed even. She would have been tortured more than she already was and probably would have been killed. So the one Inquisitor's like, I'll get you out of here. I'll take care of it. I'll handle it. I'm like, you're probably going to die too. So the big question now going into this episode is, how is Nowak going to respond? Because is she going to go immediately back to Nowak? I don't know. Would she go straight back to him? Now that she knows he's part of the Inquisition, I don't think she will, because why would she go back to him? Not that she's mad that he lied to her, but why would she go back to somebody that's tied to the people trying to get her? You know? So I think she's just going to go, I think she's going to do what Bodini told her to do, or what Bodini said he was going to do, and I think she's going to follow Bodini's path and try to do what he was setting out to do before he was killed. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm so excited for this episode and to see what will go down. I hope you all are as well. Before we start, we've got some new people on the philanthropy tier, and we need to talk about them. So real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube alone, that's awesome. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see this every week. Like the video, comment, y'all know what to do. But if you want to support me a little bit extra each month, there are 4 different tiers on my Patreon. The link is in my YouTube description. You can go check that out. But one of the tiers, the 3rd tier, is the philanthropy tier, and they donate a little extra each month to get mentioned in my videos and just to support the channel because they are amazing people. So with that being said, Alex Cornejo, Be Happy, Dana, Damage3245, Devorin, Destiny Marie, Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, Lyndon, as well as Elfreya, Murphew, Willie Morris, Translucent Men, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Daniel, James, Diana Williams, and Kier Susar. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, thank you all so much. We've talked enough. We are going to dive into episode 15 of Orb on the Movements of the Earth. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh man, y'all, that was a heartbreaking episode. Man, they are going to just not tell us about Yolinta's fate, I feel, until the end of the series. Maybe the end of the series. Who knows? This is episode 15. This is a 25 episode series, or 24 episode. Is it 24 or 25? I feel like it's one of the two. Orb episode count. How many are there? There are 25. Okay, so we really have 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. We have 10 episodes left, which makes me sad already. But okay, you know that at least part of the 10 episodes that are left are going to be focusing on this twist with Grabowski. I did not see that coming whatsoever, but now Bodini's, when he looked at the beggars, he's like, I want this from you. At first I was like, what does he want? His mind? I was like, you don't think these beggars are smart? Why do you want their mind? He literally wanted the real estate of their head. He literally wanted their skull to tattoo writing onto. Which, okay, all right. I'm very curious to know the tech of that. So, medieval head tattoos. Was that a thing? I mean, the Vikings did it, so why would we think that it wouldn't be? The facial tattoo, I kind of want to know traditions of facial tattoos. I want to go back to the Middle East, North Africa, medieval Europe. Okay, here we go. Medieval pilgrims, this is according to Wikipedia, would frequently get tattoos while visiting the Holy Land, which would include occasional face tattoos. Crusaders may have gotten facial tattoos as permanent proof of their participation in the Crusades, but this is also somewhat unknown. Okay, so and in ancient Rome, it said slaves who fled or attempted to escape from their masters were frequently branded on their foreheads or tattooed against their will. Religious facial and head tattoos were not socially acceptable in some circles, which is why Bodini was like, you need to cover that up. In 1315, 1316 CE, an edict outlawed facial tattoos and facial branding or tattooing for slaves. Well, and this is, past that time and place. Okay, interesting. So it was a practice that was happening. So Bodini had access to it. There's a part of me now that wants a modern AU of Bodini as a tattoo artist. Can I have this? Can I have modern AU tattoo artist Bodini? Can I have it? And then Aksha, who has made the solemn promise not to put any ink on his body and keep it a pure temple. Can I have this AU? Does it exist? Can y'all share it with me if it does? So yeah, I brought Whiteboard Queen out to kind of map out where we go to from here, because this definitely feels like a turning point, and we focused a lot on Nowak and his character in this episode, which is fascinating, and we're going to talk about it, but I want to break down kind of like Yolinta. As far as we are concerned, Yolinta is gone. Not gone in the dead or alive sense, but she has left. She has left on horseback. And who knows where she's traveling to. Possibly to the south, because Bodini talked about it being a little bit more liberal down there, and she'd be able to do a little bit more without being convicted as a heretic. Honestly, if you can get as far away from Antoni as possible, that'd be great, because he is a see you next Tuesday, and I don't like that man. We're going to talk about Antoni. I don't know if I've used that word on this channel before, but I was just like, you lying bastard. That's just so brutal and not necessary. Like, he went above and beyond to just make you not like his character as much as possible. And we're going to talk about him versus Nowak in this, because there are some very distinct differences between them. So Yolinta's out of the story. The good news is she is safely out of the story. We just don't know. We just don't know where exactly she'll fall. I just need Nowak to see her one more time to know that she's alive. I just need that. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't know if he's going to see her before he dies. That's really sad. Okay, we'll talk about Nowak though in all of this, but Yolenta's out of the picture. Also, R.I.P. R.I.P. to the one Inquisitor that was just like, bitch, I'm going down in a blaze of glory. Hashtag no regrets. And so what they ended up doing is that Antony, we're going to talk about Antony. Oh, Antony. He is like, well, fine. I feel like Antony's whole goal in this was to make Yolenta out to be a heretic, to call Nowak out and to make him like get knocked down a peg, and also to do like a guilt by association. So, oh, your daughter's a heretic, that taints who you are and your position with the bishop. So, you know, now I'm going to be in a position to be in a place of power. I don't know if that's going to work for Antony though. I don't know if that's going to work for Antony. I don't know if that's going to work out for him, but we're going to see. I'm going to be very curious next episode to see what the aftermath of all this is with Nowak and with Antony. I'm very, very curious. So anyway, so Antony's whole thing was that he killed our red-headed Inquisitor. He killed him and burned him at the stake and claimed that it was Yolenta, so that Nowak could be fooled. And now here's the thing. Do I think that Damien is guilty in this? I don't know. They could have just told Damien to go get Nowak and tell him. We need to see if he was involved in this circle. But the blonde was. The blonde was with Antony. So the blonde is, by all accounts, loyal. And he's seen now, like, if you're not loyal, you're out of the picture. I'm going to be curious to see if the blonde does not end up giving up the ghost. So yeah, I don't think Damien's with them. I don't think he is. I think that it's the blonde and some other guys that are with. And he says, no matter what the truth is, he's like, you intended to kill her. I love that. Okay, so Damien, for the record, is not amongst them. Damien is not there. Damien's not one of the bishops. I think that he's pretty innocent in all this. But the blonde, here's the thing about Antony and his plan. It's a pretty solid plan if you don't realize how observational Nowak is. Now, if he's banking on Nowak, like, just kind of giving up, or just going off the deep end, or just being like, whatever, then maybe he's banking on Nowak not noticing. But if Nowak gives even a second of thought to the fact that, hey, there's the blonde Inquisitor, his friend is gone. Where's his friend? And if he what if he tortures the blonde to find out information? I feel like either the situation with Nowak is going to go one of three ways. One of three ways with Nowak. Either Nowak just becomes numb and just keeps doing his job day in and day out like he has been doing, but it's without a sense of purpose. And he's just like, he doesn't have anything to look forward to with his daughter, so it's just mind numbing. He's just desensitized and disassociating. That's option one. Option two is that he gives into despair and he just kind of like spirals into a depression and just doesn't care anymore. But him not caring isn't being numb. It's just him being very emotionally distraught over his daughter's death. Could go that way. Or a third option is he gets freaking unhinged and decides to go balls to the walls and just tortures and kills heretics in a mad spree. Or it could be a combination of all three. I don't know. Nowak is kind of like, he's such a layered and deep character. It's kind of, at times you think you can predict what he's going to do, but then at other times you're like, I don't exactly know how he's going to handle this situation. And I like that about his character. I like that his character is real enough that he's not like an open book where you know exactly what he's going to do. Like, this is a pretty unprecedented situation of him losing his daughter. So we'll see how he's going to handle that, but we'll talk about it later. Antony is just such a bitch. He is a see you next Tuesday. I cannot stand him. So he talks about how, if we're going to go down here with Antony, that he does not like unthoughtful people. He really has a chip on his shoulder. Let me tell you, Antony has such a chip on his shoulder. Like, daddy issues galore. And he's like, when you make a decision under uncertain circumstances, you should imagine the worst case scenario. And he's like, basically tells the guy, he's like, yeah, you let go of a heretic. I like that he says if a heretic gets away, it could lead to the death of all humankind. Which is so, like, at what point, I forgot they were talking about a 14-year-old, like a literal child. Like a 14-year-old is gonna like destroy mankind. Okay. All right. I don't think Yolenta started any wars or has killed anybody. Yolenta is literally the most pure, perfect little kid. I really don't think she was gonna do anything to you. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what we're going to get out of her in this. He's like, do you understand the situation? And so the blonde inquisitioner is really interesting because he kind of side-eyes Antony this whole time. I don't know what the blonde is going to do for us. I mean, the blonde has seen if you betray the church, what's going to happen to you. I don't know if the blonde is going to double down and become super obedient to try to keep Antony from doing anything bad, or what the case may be. Because they didn't see, like, him and the redhead were bros, but I don't think they had, like, a bond forged like Aksha and Bodini, or, like, you know, Yolenta and her dad. So, but Antony is terrifying. His eyes are pitch black, and they look soulless. He really just does not have any sympathy. He's like the heretic you let go, maybe the enemy of humans everywhere. And then he says, love thy neighbor. I devote myself to those words. And the irony, the absolute irony of Antony saying, well, idiots like you misinterpret that verse. And I'm like, oh. And the thing about it is that it's like literature. It's like any literature. It's like anything that is subject to interpretation. We can interpret based on our experience, based on our morals, based on who we are as people. We can interpret things in a number of ways. Somebody was talking about Leviticus, because in Leviticus, anytime somebody that's Christian talks about being homophobic or being anti-gay or anti-LGBTQ plus whatever, they often cite this one verse in Leviticus, right? They always go back to that one verse in the Old Testament where God's like, don't get with another dude. And so, but here's the thing. One, they don't take the full verse in context. They read that one little sentence in a 3,000-page book, that one sentence, and that's their entire basis of hatred towards a specific group of people, which is just astounding to me as a Christian. I'm like, also, I'm like, if you actually read Leviticus, because I went back and read it, I was like, I want to read this and see what all it says. It goes through, basically Leviticus takes place while Moses, you've probably, if you know any Christian lore, know of Moses, who got away from the pharaohs in Egypt to take his people away from being slaves. There's like a 40-day, 40-night journey that they go on in after the events of, you know, getting free from the pharaoh. And if you have read, Moses goes up to the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. When he comes back down, he finds out that everybody had a big old giant party and started like worshiping a false idol. And he got really pissed. And then God was like, what the F? I rescued you all from the Pharaoh and you worship somebody else? You know, rightfully a little bit angry for a God. And God's like, what the fudge? So he basically punishes them and makes them walk through the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And during that, Leviticus is part of that trek. So as I was reading Leviticus, I noticed two things other than this one verse. One, there are a lot more passages aligned with that talk about what the people aren't allowed to do, such as you can't eat pork. You can't eat anything from like split hooved animals, which I guarantee a lot of these people quoting these verses are eating what they're not supposed to be eating. It talked about how you're supposed to dress, how you're supposed to shave, how you're supposed to grow your beard, how you're supposed to like build an altar. I guarantee most of the people that cite that one verse of Leviticus ain't doing the 45 other things that the other Leviticus verses tell them that they should be doing. So that's one. But two, I kind of interpreted Leviticus as God saying like, hey, no fun for you since you screwed up and you're stuck in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. So no, you don't get to have fun sex with other dudes. Not for you. You don't get to eat pork. Not for you. Like, I just felt like God was saying like in the book, in the text, he's just like, no, you don't get fun times. Or maybe even he was outlining in the text being like, hey, by the way, y'all are pretty dumb because I rescued y'all and you still went off and did this thing. So I'm going to lay it out for you. If you want to procreate, getting with each other of the same sex isn't going to do that. So just so you know, there's just all these different ways you can interpret it. And I get heated whenever people cite Leviticus and I'm like, yeah, okay. You cite one sentence as your justification, to cause a myriad of hatred towards people just for their existence. Let's back up a second. So when Antoni goes on this spiel, sorry, I had to rant. Orb lets me do that. When Antoni's like, well, idiots often misinterpret that verse. I'm like, well, pot calling the freaking kettle black, because y'all use these verses however you want to use these verses for your own justifications. So it baffles me. It just baffles me. That made me so mad. Where he's like, yeah. He's like, brush up on your theology. I'm like, bro, get your hand off your hip. Brush up on your own theology. So then it's like in one breath, like the Inquisitor, who is literally treating the text biblically accurate and going by it word for word, is like, I don't think that the Bible would tell us to be this way, so I'm just being kind and helping someone. In the same breath as Antoni tells him that that's not treating the Bible as they should be, one of the first commandment, the first commandment says, thou shalt not kill. What does Antoni do? I don't know how you misinterpret thou shalt not kill. Don't know how you misinterpret that. Don't know how that's a misinterpretation. Don't know how you can get those words construed for something else. But he says he's going to kill the Inquisitor and basically frame it as Yolenta and trick Nowak into thinking his daughter is dead and lying. Like, Antoni does like X, Y, and Z of here's what we shouldn't do. And he does it and he's like, well, I'm the bishop's son, whatever. And everybody's just totally fine with this. Even the bishops, even the guys there are like, And then when he says she took a hostage and wounded others in the process, that one guy looks over at Antoni like, she was freaking 14. Took a hostage? Wounded people? Antoni, did you even like talk to Yolenta? Did you look at her more than 2 seconds? I don't think this 14-year-old 5'0" girl is going to take a hostage and wound people in the process. How? Like, what? That story doesn't seem to have gotten back to Nowak because I don't think he would have believed it. He's just like, we were forced to execute her immediately. And then we carried out the official procedures and burned her at the stake. Like Antoni just lies through his teeth so easily before spreading the ashes in the river, show him the body. And they're like, well, whose body? And he's like, where will you get a body? And he's like, this one will do. Every lie and all the horrible things that he did. And I love the way I love the way the redhead looks at him like, you're a son of a bitch. And how dare you? The hypocrisy, the blasphemy. You say I'm a blaspheme? You, sir, are the lead one. I was like, yeah, Antoni's pretty bad. It's what Antoni does afterwards that makes me feel even worse. Because, like, it's one thing to do this entire concocted plan. It's one thing to have it done. But then for him to go up to Nowak later and approach him and do what he did, no. So this happens around the same time that Bodini and Aksha die. And Damien shows up and he's like, hey, they convicted your daughter. She was arrested as a heretic. She tried to escape. And then what does he say there? Because that was the story that Damien gave him. He's like, she was arrested as a heretic and she tried to escape, which sounds about right, and is now being executed. So Damien cut out all of the BS that Nowak would have saw through in an instant and just said the basic things. And that transition of Nowak going from being like in a state of shock of his daughter being like, what, to this moment in front of the fire was so masterfully done. Oh, it's heartbreaking. And by that point, when he gets to the fire, it's unrecognizable. There's clearly a body there. And plus, why would Damien lie? Damien probably didn't even know. He just was told that it was Yolenta and went from there. And the one Inquisitor was a little bit shorter, so it kind of would make sense. But for Antoni to come up behind him, I feel like Nowak was maybe in his head. That's kind of the crazy thing about this episode. We don't know exactly what Nowak is thinking. We don't get an internal monologue with him at all in this episode. It doesn't happen one bit. We don't get an internal monologue. We don't know what he's thinking. We just can assume from him. And his facial expression is all but until he breaks down. So when he was watching the body, in my head, I was thinking, okay, he's thinking of every possible way this is a lie. It's not his daughter. And that's when Antoni comes in and has the audacity to put his hand on Nowak's shoulders. That whole thing about the hand on his shoulder and he say, "My condolences," to me is everything that is a lie about the church in this series. Because you have Nowak. We might as well bring Nowak into this. That you have Nowak. And he genuinely does have faith. It's not unlike Aksha in a way, where he has faith and he has fear. I don't think he has fear of God. I think he has fear of man. Honestly, he has fear of retribution from men. And he knows that if he follows the system, that he will be fine. And that Jolenta will be fine if he can just follow the system. He's like, what we don't know is we don't know Nowak from the very beginning. If Nowak originally didn't believe in this system, he was a mercenary. So we have to question this, right? As a mercenary, did he have faith in the system? But I feel like maybe over time he grew faith in the system because he was being benefited from it and he wants to protect his daughter. And so he's trying to set this good example for her. And I feel like Nowak is more afraid of the men that are part of this system that would cause her harm. Like, I don't think Nowak cares for himself. I think that that's not a problem. It's her that he cares about. And Antoni, that hand of a man that just set all of this up to ruin his life, being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, what, bitch? And then he's like, "Oh, well." He said, "I heard she was quite intelligent. I tried to oppose decision. That damn bastard. She still had a future." She does still have a future. And then that's when he brings out the gloves. He's like, "I brought these for you." I think that it's as proof because he knows that these were an item of hers. So he's like, how are we going to get Nowak to be convinced that we actually took her into custody and that she was actually burned? Well, I'll give him the gloves back. And then it's almost like a good faith gesture. He's like, this way you can grieve her. And his giant hands holding those little gloves. And then the hypocrisy of, it's against regulation, but this is a special case. Bullshit. You just, again, showing how they just do whatever they want. He's like, "I've never had a good impression of your inquisitors." Honestly, though, Antoni, I don't know what Antoni's ultimate game with this is because he wants to get rid of him. So why do this gesture? Maybe it's just to get Nowak to not question it and to not research into it. Maybe that's it. And he's trying to lull Nowak into a false sense of security before he springs a trap on him. He's like, "I see how courageous you really are." And here's the thing. He's like, "Please allow me to pray for her too." I'm like, "You're such a bitch." And then he just sits there and smiles. What a bitch. He's like this. He knows this is the worst thing to do to Nowak. He knows this hurts worse than anything. He's such a bitch. I cannot stand Antoni. I want Antoni to get his just rewards. Because here's the thing. Antoni is a little bitch. Antoni is doing whatever he can to benefit himself, and he cares about nobody else. He is like the least biblical man in this series, and he's the son of the bishop, right? And then and there's a part of him that I think wants to cause trauma and harm to his own father because he has daddy issues and he doesn't know what it's like for a parent to be doting towards their kid properly. Meanwhile, Nowak actually was doing that. Here's the thing about Nowak. He was a villainous character. He's an antagonist in this series, but he did follow a code. He did follow his own code. He did exactly as he said he would. He answered the questions. He did all the things. He ran and did the system just exactly as he was told. He didn't do anything that was really for himself. The only thing he did for himself involved Bodini and Aksha, where he went above. That's where it got personal because it was connected to Raffle. That's why it was personal. So a part of me in this episode wanted to know if maybe Nowak was like, did I did I do this to myself? Did me getting a personal vendetta against these two and killing them cause bad karma, and the universe is punishing me now for stepping beyond the Lord's means to do things by my own agenda, and so I suffered the wrath of God by having my daughter taken from me? We don't know if he thinks anything like that because they don't show us, and they don't tell us any internal monologues yet. So we'll wait on that. We'll see if that comes out, right? We'll see if that comes out. I feel like if Nowak runs into Jolenta again, if he will confess to her what he thought when she died, I'm curious about that. But Nowak was not out to run an agenda. He was just doing his job. Did he take advantage of the privilege of the system? Yeah, he took advantage of the privilege of the system, but so did Bodini. And so it's like, yeah, they took advantage of the privilege, but for Antoni is literally wishing harm on people. Antoni is actively wanting, through hatred, to hurt people. Nowak just was following the code, and there is a part of us that we can think that Nowak did believe in the code, so him following it was thinking he was doing as he was supposed to. Antoni is just mean. Antoni is just cruel. And there's nothing like with that's duty bound. Man, him going home, and then he just gets in the bed, and he doesn't even go to sleep. He just sits there and stares. I was waiting for him to have a moment where he broke down, and he finally does, but we get the 10 years earlier with his daughter. And it's so heartbreaking. He literally he loves Jolenta, and he was doing the best that he could. It's so crazy to see Nowak, who we've watched throughout this series, be this man that could be hard as stone and do his job so seriously. But then when he gets home, he's just a father to his daughter, and he just loves his daughter. And he wanted her. He saw that her hands were cold. He kept the letter. I'm like, he better keep the letter that she gave him. Right? But there's a part of me that's like, would he believe that his daughter would be a heretic? Because she's she is a little person of faith. And there's a part of me that got me emotional in the fact that when you think of children are so innocent, and they are so much purer than we give them credit for. And I think Nowak, he was taking her through the town. He saw the kid with the gloves, and he thought of how cold his daughter's hands were next to the little candle. And he's like, yeah, they'll arrive next week. And he's like, now your hands won't get cold when you study. And he's like, this is the fate that God has granted you. And he's like, you should always, when good things happen, you should give thanks to God. I want that to come back full circle. I want her to see him one more time. And when she sees him, I want her to thank God in front of him so that he can see that teaching that he did for her comes full circle and that he didn't do something wrong. I want that to happen, but I don't know if it will or not. But if that comes back, I will be all about it. And so then, she's a little kid. She gets mad because the gloves don't fit. And I think she's like, they're way too big. And what he could have said to her was like, oh, well, you'll grow into them. This way you won't grow out of your gloves. You can have them forever. I feel like he could have framed it that way. But instead, he's like, well, it wasn't a lie. He's like, no one's at fault. I'll make up for it. And he's like, I didn't intend to hurt you. And honestly, to Nowak's credit, he's being nice. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, it's nobody's fault. I'll make it up to you. She's the one that's like, it's God's fault because you told me this was all on him. So why don't the gloves fit? And the thing about it is, if he hadn't taken it so personally and had this knee-jerk reaction in the moment, he could have spun it in that moment as, oh, no, it's not. Well, if it's God's fault, maybe God means for you to have these later on when your hands get bigger. See, sometimes the Lord works in mysterious ways. Who knows? He could have spun it that way. But instead, the thing is, she doesn't know he's part of the Inquisition. So when he says, what did you say? And she's like, well, it's God's fault. He has this knee-jerk reflex of hearing someone speak the Lord's name in vain. And he immediately is like, you can't say that. If they hear you say that, they'll kill you. And so it's him as a dad worrying that what she's just said will lead her to get taken from him. And that's why he yells in that moment and says, take that back right now. The words are unforgivable. and she freaks out in that moment because, she's a sweet girl. So she just had this moment of being an angry kid, and he took it. What we don't know is this happening right before or after Raffle dies? If it happens right after Raffle dies, then it makes sense why he freaks out so much, because Raffle, a kid her age, or, well, Raffle is 12. She's probably like, what, 4 or 5? Like a little bitty kid. It was 10 years earlier, so she had to be 4. Her writing a whole letter at 4 is pretty impressive. So yeah, he was probably like freaked out that she was going to be in the same boat as Raffle. And then he's like, what should I have done? And he's like, teaching her faith is most important. I really like seeing Nowak like this. I like seeing him like concerned and contemplating as a father what he should be doing for his daughter. He's like, did I do the right thing? I flew off the handle. Why did I yell at her? He's like, that may be, but when a child is crying, what could be more important than comforting them? That's the thing. That's the thing. I love this series because Nowak he's such a complex character. He can be a bastard, from our angle, because we liked Raffle and we liked Bodini and Aksha. I feel like with Bodini and Aksha, though, they were grown men that knew exactly what they were getting into, and so they accepted the consequences of their actions. They just happened to also get involved with Yolanta, and then Nowak got involved and it got personal. So, I mean, I feel like I'm not so angry at Nowak for what he did in that scenario, because he was just following up with not only his job, but that vendetta against Raffle. But with Raffle, it's like, I also feel like Raffle kind of disturbed him, because Raffle was only 12. So he was like on that verge of being still a child and almost a teenager. So the fact that Raffle didn't cry, he didn't get sad, he's just like, nope, I'm going to go now. I think that freaked him out. And him being like, but how could you, you're not a kid that needs comforting. Like, especially when Raffle sent him away, he's like, okay, you can go now. I'm going to die. It's fine. I feel like that really impacted him. And seeing this side of Nowak makes me like his character so much more. So he goes back in to comfort her, and she's like, you work every day for God's sake. She's like, I'm sorry, it was wrong for me to say. She's like, look, if I wear them like this, they'll work. And then he crouches behind her and says, I'm really sorry. Because I think in that moment, like, I almost got emotional there, because he realizes, like, she's so pure and kind that she was like, she overlooked his, like, outburst there and was like, it's okay. See, Dad, everything's gonna be fine. And that, like, touched his soul. Like Yolanta is too good. She's too pure for this world. And she got away, but now he thinks that she's gone from it and that it's possibly his fault for not acting faster. So I don't know if it's going to, like, get him to go into overdrive with the heretics. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with his character, because you can tell this really impacted him. And the whole thing with grabbing her hand, holding the gloves, her waving, like every image of the hands in this moment. And then him getting out of the bed. The moment he went to the table and then collapsed by it, and he held up the glove and her hand wasn't there. And it's not like when he held her hand before, it's just the glove. And he lost it. I really feel for Nowak. Also, kudos to Suda for doing, like, a good breakdown. Like, him swallowed with grief. Sucks. And what sucks even more is that we don't get to see the aftermath of it. We have to wait an episode until that happens. So, that sucks. I don't know if we're getting another time skip next episode. I don't know. But, I really just love Novak's character, and I love seeing that he's actually a good man that's trying to work within the paradigms of this world, but he's also somewhat of a coward because he's not afraid to go against that grain. But you kind of know why he's that way now, because he was so worried about his daughter. Well, now that she's gone, what's going to happen? I don't know. So then we go back to old Father Grabowski. Father Grabowski, and I am going to give him some credit, because I thought that he intentionally turned that book in to get Bodini in trouble, but no! Grabowski gave the anonymous tip in, but he didn't realize the book was associated with Bodini. He just saw it seemed somewhat suspicious and potentially blasphemous, and he just turned it in. And that was that. He didn't even realize it was Bodini, which is kind of crazy. And the people in the village are all like, man, who would have thought that a heretic would have been here? And he's like, well, it's probably from the next town over, you know. I like they just said that Bodini was suspicious because of the eye patch. I'm like, So Grabowski realizes like 6 months ago. Okay, 6 months ago he found the book. So that gives us a little bit of a time frame that this was from 6 months ago. Okay. That gives us a little bit of time frame. That gives us a little bit more with that. That's nice to know. So 6 months ago, he found the book, which means that Bodini had literally 6 months at least to work on the tattooing. Okay, that gives us a little time frame. That makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, you can tattoo a lot in an hour. You can tattoo a lot on somebody's skin. I have a friend of mine that has like 36 tattoos. His whole arms and legs are covered. And he has this like giant one on his arm. And I'm like, how long did that take? And he's like, oh, like an hour. So, I mean, if you're just writing words, it literally would be how many words can you write on someone's head in an hour? And if you're thinking about how, this is the part that I was like, ooh, if you think about how like gentle Bodini was, do you think Bodini was gentle with that tattoo on that man's skull? He was just like, hold still, let me scrawl this in, you know. So he goes back to his office, and that's when he finds the letter. And he's like, and the letter was, it was the poem from Lucretius that he wanted. Bodini's heart, Aksha had such an impact on Bodini, because Bodini not only like made the poem for, now granted, the poem was made for Grabowski because he wants something in return, but still, that letter from Bodini saying what he said, I'm like, it took a lot for him to say that. He's like, I apologize. For Bodini to say, I apologize, and it's heartfelt is crazy. If you're visited by a certain beggar, please receive them. I know it's unlikely you're going to fulfill this request. I have no way to convince you. Despite knowing that these words hold little sway, I beg you from the bottom of my heart. Here's the thing. But Bodini, this is the gamble Bodini was talking about to Aksha, being like, I don't know if it's going to work. It's my only gamble. We'll see. But I think it's interesting because I think Bodini knew from his encounter with Grabowski that he's like, Grabowski seems like someone that wants to take the lead on something. He wants to be in the room where it happened, right? If we're talking Hamilton terms, he wanted to be like Burr and be in the room where it happens. And at the time, Bodini denied him. And he's like, no, you're not worthy of being in the room. Only those of worth can. But now Bodini's like, I got to have somebody help me get this book published. So what's interesting is that Bodini, you know, kind of went against his own philosophy there, saying he was going to be the one to turn in and get the credit. He's passing the torch down to Grabowski, saying, all right, you went in the room. Now you're in the room. Here's the text. Get it wrote down. Distribute it. Pass it out. If you want to be part of history, here's your chance. You're in the room where it happens. Now do something. And that's kind of crazy. I honestly love that. I love that Bodini's like, he was able to read Grabowski, you know, in that sense. Please educate the beggars somehow. I'm curious what that means. I don't know if educate the beggars means to teach them to write out everything that's on each other's heads to save him time from having to write it all out himself. Maybe I could see that. Or if it would just be easier for him to write it out. I don't know. But yeah, so the beggars, again, what a gamble. Because the beggars were contemplating whether they go or not. They're like, I don't know. That Bodini guy, he was kind of suspicious. I don't know. I don't think we should take a chance. What if we get caught? What if we get hurt? But it was literally Aksha who made them convinced. They're like, but the guy with the ponytail did give us bread and he was kind. Wild. Absolutely wild. I freaking love it. So they go get him and they take him back to where the beggars are all at. I love this. And then as they all take out the razors, he cuts the hair and there it is. This was page 1. And they all cut their hair too. There's 60 pages. Insane. Insane. I'm like, you didn't have to cut it all at once. We can start with page 1. I get the dramatic effect though. I was not expecting this twist to be how he saved the writing. He told us to wear hats until it grew back. So now we have in this episode, the ball is in two courts. We have the ball as in Grabowski's court, where him like facing, what do you think is necessary to change such a world? He's like, it's the truth. So, and Grabowski's like, okay, is it my turn? Here's the thing. Grabowski's the perfect person to pass the torch to. He's the perfect person as he walks into the light there with all the beggars. He's the perfect person to pass the torch to because he wants the torch to be passed. And then we have that moment, that symbolism of the sky, the moon coming out and the stars being shown in the sky. Like everything's like opening up. Like that's the thing. Grabowski's the perfect person for Bodini to pass the torch to because Grabowski wants someone to do it. He wants to get the torch from someone. He wants to have that responsibility. He wants to be the one to make the impact. And so now it's like, okay, you've been handed the ball, Grabowski. Are you going to slam dunk or are you going to fumble it? I know that's a football term, but I'm like, are you going to get it to go out of bounds or are you going to shoot the basket and make it? So yeah, so we have to now worry about what is Nowak going to do in the aftermath of him thinking his daughter is dead. I think it could go on a spectrum of things. He could either go back to business as usual. He could get more intense with the heretic search. He could get more lax. He could try to figure out, is he suspicious of if it was actually his daughter? What happened? I mean, unfortunately, the only guy that saved her that knows for sure what happened to her is dead. Although that's probably for the best because that means she can't be tracked down. So I don't know. Will she ever come back to see him? How's that going to work? Because here's the thing. She doesn't know what happened to the Inquisitioners. She doesn't know about Antony's entire plot. She doesn't know that. She could come back and show up and Nowak be like, oh, wow, Antony, you lied and made me feel awful when you didn't actually kill my daughter. Great. Or she could stay hidden. I kind of want her to stay hidden for a while because I think that would put her in danger, but I don't know. Like I said, I was fully expecting a new OP and new ED, but we've not got that yet. So I don't know if it's going to happen in the next few episodes or not. I don't know. We haven't met the person with the green hair, so I feel like we still have to meet them. And that not feminist mustache has to be grown out by Antony. I would say it's a fascist mustache, but I don't really know if that's the right terminology for it. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt and just say obnoxious, not feminist mustache. Or the bigot stash. We'll call it one of the two. Or maybe it's not even Antony. Who knows? But I think it is Antony. But yeah, I want Antony to get his just desserts. But unfortunately, people like Antony oftentimes throughout history got away with it. So I don't know. I don't know if Antony will get his just desserts. I don't know if the heavenly karma will get to him or not. It'd be nice if it did. It'd be nice if Nowak was the one to distribute that karmatic justice, but I don't know. What I do know is this episode was really good, really heartfelt. I really like Nowak as a character. My heart bled for him, and I'm glad Yolanta got away. So R.I.P. Inquisitor, you went out like a boss. I'm excited to hear your comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. I also hope you have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of ORB on the movements of the earth. Bye.